The doorbell rang at 11:47 p.m. Marcus Thompson stood frozen, staring at the security camera feed on his phone. There, on his doorstep, was Elise Harrington, his boss, the CEO of Meridian Technologies, and the woman who was supposed to be getting married tomorrow morning to one of the wealthiest real estate developers in the city. She was still wearing her rehearsal dinner dress, mascara streaking down her face, clutching a small overnight bag. Before opening the door, Marcus glanced back at his sleeping 5-year-old daughter, Emma, wondering how his ordinary life as a struggling single dad was about to collide with the woman who controlled his paycheck and, increasingly, his thoughts. If you're moved by stories of unexpected love, courage, and finding happiness in the most surprising places, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt stories that remind us all what truly matters in life. Marcus had been working as a senior software developer at Meridian Technologies for just over 2 years. He'd joined the company shortly after his wife Karina's death, desperate for stability and a flexible schedule that would allow him to care for Emma. What he hadn't expected was to find himself reporting directly to Elise Harrington, the 34-year-old CEO who had built Meridian from a startup into a tech powerhouse in just 6 years. Elise had a reputation for being brilliant but distant, respected but not particularly well-liked. The office whispers painted her as cold, calculating, and entirely focused on business success. Her engagement to Richard Blackwell, heir to the Blackwell development empire, had seemed like the perfect merger of two ambitious people. The wedding had been featured in business magazines as the Power Union of the Year. And yet, here she was, standing at his door in the middle of the night. "I'm sorry," she said when he opened the door, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know where else to go." Marcus stepped aside to let her in, confusion written across his face. "Ms. Harrington, Elise, what happened? Isn't your wedding tomorrow?" She walked into his modest living room, looking out of place in her designer dress among his IKEA furniture and Emma's scattered toys. "There isn't going to be a wedding," she said, sinking onto his couch. "I couldn't do it. I couldn't fake loving him anymore." The night unfolded with revelations that shook Marcus's understanding of the woman he thought he knew. Elise explained how her relationship with Richard had been more business arrangement than love match, two ambitious people whose families and boards of directors saw advantages in their union. She'd convinced herself it was enough, that passion was overrated compared to stability and strategic advantage. "But then I started working with you on the Horizon project," she said, not quite meeting his eyes. Marcus remembered those late nights all too well. For 3 months, they'd worked side by side developing Meridian's most ambitious software platform. He'd seen a different side of Elise during those sessions, one that laughed at his terrible jokes, ordered midnight pizza, and genuinely listened when he talked about the challenges of raising Emma alone. "I saw how you light up when you talk about Emma," Elise continued. "How you rearranged your entire life to be there for her. The way you pour your heart into everything you do, your work, your daughter, even that ridiculous office fantasy football league." She smiled through her tears. "And I realized I've never felt that way about Richard. Not once." Marcus sat across from her, stunned. "So you called off the wedding? Just like that? At the rehearsal dinner? In front of everyone?" She winced at the memory. "Richard's mother called me a social climbing opportunist. My father hasn't stopped calling my phone. The board members who were there looked like they were calculating stock drops in their heads." She laughed bitterly. "And all I could think was that I needed to talk to you." "Me? Why me?" Elise finally looked directly at him. "Because you're the only person who's seen the real me in years. Not the CEO, not the Harrington heiress, just me." Before Marcus could respond, a small voice came from the hallway. "Daddy? Who's the pretty lady?" Emma stood there in her unicorn pajamas, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Marcus quickly went to her, lifting her into his arms. "This is Ms. Harrington, sweetheart. She works with Daddy. Are you sad?" Emma asked Elise directly, noticing her tear-stained face. When I'm sad, Daddy makes hot chocolate with tiny marshmallows. It helps a lot. The simple kindness of a child broke something open in Elise. She began to sob, deep, body-shaking cries that seemed to release years of pent-up emotion. Marcus stood awkwardly holding Emma, witnessing his powerful, composed boss completely fall apart. "I think the lady needs hot chocolate, Daddy," Emma whispered loudly. That night changed everything. Elise slept in their guest room, and in the morning, Marcus found her and Emma at the kitchen table, deep in conversation about the relative merits of different Disney princesses. Elise had borrowed one of his t-shirts and sweatpants, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, looking nothing like the intimidating executive he knew. "Emma thinks I should stay here for a while," Elise announced, a hint of uncertainty in her voice. "She says the monsters under my bed can't find me if I'm at a new address." Marcus raised an eyebrow at his daughter, who nodded solemnly. "The scary people calling her phone are like monsters, Daddy. She needs a hiding place." The fallout from Elise's cancelled wedding was immediate and brutal. Business news outlets speculated wildly about her mental health and the future of Meridian Technologies. Richard Blackwell gave scathing interviews suggesting Elise was unstable and unfit to lead. Her own board of directors called an emergency meeting to discuss whether she should step down. Through it all, Elise found refuge in Marcus's home. What began as a temporary arrangement stretched into weeks. She worked remotely during the day while Marcus was at the office, then played with Emma when he brought her home from kindergarten. At night, after Emma was asleep, they would talk for hours, about work, their childhoods, their dreams and fears. For Marcus, it was disorienting to see his boss this way. The woman who terrified junior developers and went toe-to-toe with venture capitalists now sat cross-legged on his living room floor building Lego castles with his daughter. The woman who wore power suits and never had a hair out of place now borrowed his hoodies and let Emma attempt to braid her hair. "Why did you really come here that night?" he finally asked her one evening, a month after she'd appeared at his door. "You could have gone anywhere, a hotel, your parents' house, a friend's place." Elise was quiet for a long moment. "I think I came here because when I imagined a life where I was actually happy, you were in it." She looked up at him, vulnerable in a way he'd never seen before. "Both of you." Their first kiss happened in his kitchen while Emma was at a playdate. Their first date was a picnic in the park with Emma as chaperone. Their first public appearance together was at Emma's school play, where they sat holding hands while Emma played a very enthusiastic tree. The corporate world exploded with gossip. Marcus was labeled an opportunist, a gold digger who had seduced his boss. Elise was called desperate, having traded down after being rejected by Richard. Some of Marcus's colleagues stopped speaking to him, assuming he'd been sleeping with the CEO all along to advance his career. "I should move out," Elise said one night after a particularly brutal day of media speculation. "I'm ruining your reputation. People at the office are treating you terribly because of me." "Is that what you want?" Marcus asked quietly. "To leave?" "No," she admitted. "That's the last thing I want. But I don't want to hurt you and Emma." "Mommy, Elise can't leave," Emma declared, appearing in the doorway in her pajamas. Neither adult had realized she was listening. "She belongs with us now." "Mommy Elise?" Marcus echoed, looking between his daughter and Elise, whose eyes had filled with tears. "That's what I call her in my head," Emma explained matter-of-factly. "Because she takes care of me like a mommy. She helps me with my homework and knows how to fix my hair and scares away the closet monsters." Elise knelt down to Emma's level. "Sweetie, I'm not really your mommy. Your mommy was a wonderful person who loved you very much." "I know," Emma said with the simple wisdom of children. "I can have my angel mommy in heaven and my Elise mommy here. Daddy says love grows, it doesn't divide." 6 months after Elise appeared on Marcus's doorstep, she faced her most difficult board meeting yet. Meridian's stock had initially plummeted after the wedding scandal but had since recovered as Elise threw herself into launching their groundbreaking Horizon platform. Still, several board members remained convinced that her personal choices reflected poor judgment. "Before you vote on my continued leadership," Elise told them, "there's something you should know. I'm not the same person who built this company. I'm better." She pulled out her phone and showed them a picture of herself, Marcus, and Emma at the beach, all three smiling widely. "I found something I never knew I was missing, a real family, real love. It's made me more focused, more creative, and more determined than ever to build something that matters." She laid out her vision for Meridian's future with such passion and clarity that even her harshest critics were silenced. The vote to retain her as CEO was unanimous. That evening, she returned to what had become their home to find Marcus and Emma waiting with a cake that read, "Our CEO hero," in wobbly frosting letters. "How did you know it would go well?" she asked, amazed. "Because you're you," Marcus said simply. "And you're unstoppable when you're fighting for something you believe in." Later that night, after Emma was asleep, Marcus took Elise's hand and led her to the backyard. He had strung lights in the trees, and in the center of the yard was a small table with a single rose. "What's all this?" she asked. "1 year ago today, you showed up at my door and changed our lives forever," he said. "I wanted to mark the occasion." "Our anniversary is actually tomorrow," she corrected him with a smile. "I came the night before my wedding was supposed to be." "I know," he said, suddenly nervous. "But I wanted to do this tonight, so that tomorrow can be about something new." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box, then dropped to one knee. Elise gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "Elise Harrington, you crashed into our lives like a beautiful storm. You've brought so much joy to Emma, and you've shown me what it means to truly love someone with your whole heart. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her face as she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. 1,000 times yes. Their wedding was nothing like the lavish affair Elise had planned with Richard. They married in Marcus's backyard, with Emma as their flower girl. Elise wore a simple white dress, Marcus wore the first suit he'd bought since Karina's funeral, and Emma wore a princess dress she'd picked out herself. Elise's parents came, finally won over by their daughter's obvious happiness. A few close friends from work attended, including those who had stood by Marcus during the difficult months of gossip. There was no business advantage to this union, no merging of empires, just two people who had found each other when they needed it most. During the reception, Emma insisted on making a toast. Standing on a chair with her apple juice raised high, she announced to everyone, "My daddy was sad for a long time after my first mommy went to heaven. And mommy Elise was sad too, even though she pretended not to be. But now we're all happy together, and that's the best kind of family, the kind you find when you're not looking." 1 year later, Elise sat in her office at Meridian, looking at the family photos on her desk. There was their wedding day, with Marcus and Emma beaming beside her. There was Emma's 6th birthday, where Elise had somehow managed to bake a 3-tier unicorn cake despite having never baked anything before in her life. And there was the most recent addition, a hospital photo of tiny James Marcus Harrington Thompson, born just 2 months ago. Her assistant knocked on the door. "Your husband is here with the kids." Elise looked up to see Marcus entering with baby James in a carrier and Emma skipping alongside them. "Ready for our lunch date, CEO Thompson?" Marcus asked with a smile. "More than ready," she said, standing to kiss him and ruffle Emma's hair. As they walked through the office, she noticed the looks they received, no longer scandalized whispers but genuine smiles. The story of the CEO who cancelled her wedding and found true love had become something of a company legend. That evening, as they sat together on the porch swing of the new house they'd bought, larger than Marcus's old place but still modest by Elise's former standards, Marcus asked her a question. "Do you ever regret it? Walking away from the wedding, the lifestyle, all of it?" Elise looked at Emma playing in the yard, then down at baby James sleeping in her arms. Not for a single second, she said. I couldn't fake loving Richard, but I never have to fake anything with you. This is real. This is everything. As the sun set on their little family, Elise reflected on the night that had changed everything, when she'd stood on Marcus's doorstep, terrified and heartbroken, never imagining that she was actually taking the first step toward the life she was meant to live all along. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is walk away from what everyone expects of us and toward what our heart knows is true. Sometimes the perfect life isn't the one that looks perfect from the outside, but the one that feels perfect on the inside. And sometimes, the greatest love stories begin not with love at first sight, but with the courage to be seen, truly seen, for the first time. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more tales of courage, love, and finding happiness in unexpected places. Remember that it's never too late to choose authenticity over expectation, and that the most beautiful journeys often begin with the most difficult first steps.